Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I wanted to do this intro before I go into the regular podcast. I uploaded it on YouTube, but I have some other things I wanted to talk to you about. And the first was something from the mothership, the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I don't know if you know the Lux Pharmacist, but she did a great episode on Residency 101, which is really giving you the basics and something that I forget to think about because it's kind of that curse of knowledge where I assume everybody knows the difference between a PGY1 and a PGY2 and why you do a PGY1 and what the first 6 weeks of the residency looks like, its orientation, and that then you have certain scheduled and opportunities. But the one thing that she talked about that really kind of struck me that wasn't necessarily a big deal for her, and I haven't talked to her, but it sounded like she and her significant other were in similar areas or same place, and she talked a little bit about staffing requirements. And I can tell you that the staffing requirements are one of the things that really separate the difficulty in managing residency stress, especially if you have a family. So, when you are looking at these sites and saying, oh, this is great, this has all the things that I want, one of the most important things that you can look at in terms of your quality of life during the residency is going to be what kind of staffing are you looking at? What kind of on call are you looking at? Some community pharmacies for pharmacy residencies, for example, have a very much a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, and there's no weekend staffing requirements. Whereas in hospital, you might be doing the opposite. And if you're a single parent, if you're a parent who your spouse really relies on to, bring the kids to school, take the schools back, or take the kids back, and those types of things, certain residencies are definitely not going to be fundamentally compatible with being a good parent, a good spouse, and those types of things. So as you're looking, and the wonderful thing is that they've expanded the number of residencies so much that there are significant opportunities in many different ways. But again, it all comes back to the LOI, and I know I've been kind of beating that dead horse, but the letter of intent is your way of kind of saying, okay, this is what I want, but you also have to include in there what it is you're willing to give up. And I have would not be willing to give up a lot of the things that I have right now, which are I always get to be with my kids in the weekends. I always get to take my kids to school. I get to pick them up from whether it's gymnastics or basketball or whatever. But I am significantly involved in everything that they do, and I couldn't imagine not being that way. I couldn't imagine having a job that makes me work 3 nights every other weekend and takes me away from those things. I can't imagine having to apologize that many times. Sorry, I couldn't make your game. Sorry, I couldn't make your class party. Sorry, I couldn't do this. Sorry, I couldn't do that. And I get that residency is only a year or it's only 2 years, but I have to tell you that there are many, many times where you can have the identical residency experience and not have to do that extra work. And I get that some of the residencies have more, not gravitas, but I guess you would call it as prestige or things like that. But that's institutional prestige. And a lot of times we mistake institutional prestige for what you really want out of the residency, which is to allow it to be a bridge to your next step. So getting a nationally recognized residency in the Northeast when you want to work in the Deep South, that's cool and all, but you aren't making the connections you need to at the hospitals that you want. And as I'll talk about in the trends in the episode, one of the big trends is that residencies are getting iffy on taking chances that they don't have to take. And there are a number of reasons for that, and I won't go into it now, but your choice of which to apply to is so critical to your success in the match. And the three big ones, the LOI, the recommendations, and those students that did APPEs there, those are the three big modifiable factors. And if those are in line, I really, really see a good chance for you to get a residency. When those are out of line, your backup residencies in places that don't really make sense, things like that, you're probably not going to get it anyway. So let's go on with the episode. But again, if you want my help with the letter of intent, sure, get a hold of me, aagera@dmac.edu. That's AAGUERRA at dmacc.edu, or I'm Tony PharmD, Tony Guerra on LinkedIn. I wanted to talk a little bit about some trends going on as the match approaches. So first thing, Strong Residency Letter of Intent, the book. You can, if you've got Kindle Unlimited, there's no reason not to download it. It's a book that will take you about an hour and a half to get through, but I go over all of the mistakes that I've seen that you don't want to make as you're thinking about writing your letter of intent. And I recommend writing it now if you're a P4 or in your final year, because what it really does is it's a moving document. You keep working on it, and as you kind of change what you're interested in, it kind of changes. And it really helps to put it down on paper. You keep saying, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but if you were to try to write it down, it starts becoming much more clear. I don't know why that happens, it just does. You can also find free template at residencyhelp.com/letter. I have it in docx and PDF. And then certainly if you're doing the interview or get an interview, also recommend Brandon Dyson and mine's 100 Strong Residency Interview Questions, Answers, and Rationales. Recommendations, you should be asking for recommendations for everyone you've already gone to do an APPE with. I can tell you that as soon as residency season starts, there's going to be a lot of no's going out there for the recommendation because they're just overwhelmed and have too many already. So now is really time to do it. And I go through exactly how you should do it. There's going to be two different steps that you really want to take. First is getting the commitment, and then second time is putting all the details. If you do want help with the LOI and this residency season, it's just $75, a one-time fee for the whole season, and I'll work with you and work with your letter of intent document. Okay. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the match. The schedule is coming up November 1st, so we're just 22 days away until the list of programs come in, so get your Excel files ready. But I can talk to you a little bit about some trends that I'm seeing already from the people I'm already working with the letter of intent. And I was really kind of surprised that I got so many responses so quickly. And I mean, I know I've got a number of connections on Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth. But what surprised me was who I was getting. And I wanted to kind of go over that. And I'm not going to tell you their names, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about them because I have so many now. So the first thing that you want to know is that when you're signing up for the match, you've made this agreement, and this agreement has one part that you really, really need to understand. And I'll read it to you in its entirety and then talk about it. I understand that I must not communicate my ranking intentions to any program and must not request that a program inform me of how it intends to rank any applicant. I understand further that participating programs must not communicate their ranking intentions to me and must not request that I state how I intend to rank it. It's a violation. What that means is that even though a program might be absolutely sure they're going to have someone, that there could be 8, 9, 10 people coming in there doing the interviews, and all they're really applying for is a 1% chance that the person that was going to do it isn't going to do it. And what I want to go over in this very short video is, or it'll be video on YouTube and then it'll become the podcast episode on audio, is how you can tell without being able to ask the question. And I was watching Longmire last night, and she was under a confidentiality. His daughter Katie was under a confidentiality agreement. It's like, well, is there a way that you can get around this? And there is, I think, some ways that you can minimize your chance of going and applying to a program to which you will have no chance at getting. And I mean, I'm just saying that their ties to the person are too strong. So those programs, I think, especially if you can just get this one answer from the current residents, this is what you should be asking, whether you're at ASHP for the national one, or if you're in a regional one where you're hearing from residency programs. What you want to know is, did they do an APPE at the site that they're at? So what you're going to find out is maybe there's 10 residents and 8 of them did an APPE, or even more so, did one of those longitudinal ones where they spent maybe 20 weeks in the same hospital. And if you see that the majority of people have already done an experience there and you haven't, that program is saying, look, we don't want to deal with people that don't know our EHR, or we don't want, it's just so much easier to have someone that's already been there. They've, basically interviewed for 5 to 20 weeks. We're really not taking outsiders. The other thing you want to know is, what state or states are they from? And some places are very regional. And you'll go in and you'll say, wow, you're from there too? Okay. And I'll just use a state that I don't have any ties to necessarily. So we'll just say Indiana, because it's a Midwestern state near me. So, oh, you're from Indiana, and your co-residents are from Indiana, and your other residents are from Indiana. And they might not be from, one pharmacy school, but you see that they're all from Indiana, or they're from Indiana and Illinois and Iowa, or something like that. And so what you're finding out very quickly is that this program is very regional, and that the ties that they have are probably to the schools in the area, and they can just call those professors up that they know and just say, hey, such and such applied to our program. I saw you give them a recommendation. I just wanted to follow up with you. And that's one way that a residency program can deal with the just massive number of applications. Because if you are a Midwestern person, especially if you start talking about your spouse and things like that, if you are a Midwesterner and you have a Midwestern spouse and you are staying in the Midwest, then they know that you are pretty likely going to stay there. If you're applying from way outside of the Midwest, coming in with a non-Midwest spouse, then they're thinking you're not going to stay. So what's the point of doing a residency, training you for a year, and then you're someone that we might not be able to use at our own hospital? So you want to get an idea from this question, and the big question you want to ask is, where did you come from? Where did you come from your APPE? Where did you come from your school? Where did you come from your state? Where the residents in that residency program come from tells you more about your chances at getting that residency than any other factor that you could ask them about. I know many people say the residency showcase is a waste, and it is the way that most people use it. It's the residency showcase, not the potential residency applicant showcase. It's the residency showcase, so they're showcasing their programs. But what you really want to know is, put your business card away, put your CV away. What you want to do is just keep listening, and start listening for what are the things that these people that got accepted have in common. They all did multiple critical care rotations in their APPEs, or they all have certain leaderships qualities, or they've all done research. Or what you're trying to do is trying to figure out what makes them the same, what makes them a cohesive group, and what was the group before them looking for, and then what is this group probably looking for. So I know that when you go by these, it feels really international, to be honest. It's kind of cool. You go past the New York schools, and then you might go past a Midwestern school, and then you go past a Deep South school, and you hear all these accents and all these things, and it's really cool. But what you also see is that they are, for as heterogeneous as ASHP makes it sound, they are very homogenous. And I'm not talking about race and things like that. What I'm talking about is that a school in a southern state many times has many schools from the SEC, or the Southeastern Conference. And that's just the way it is. So what you're looking for, And the one thing that you want to listen for as you're sitting there trying to figure out where to go is, what is it that these residents have in common? Do I have that in common with them? And then, am I going to even have a chance at this place because I did or didn't do an APPE with them? The one big trend I wanted to talk to you about is this one, and it's speculation on my part. If you want to find the results from past matches, you go to natmatch.com/ASHPRMP/stats.html, and you can see the previous years. And I've already kind of put all the previous years together, and I'm going to tell you through 2019 what's happened, and I'll make this a little bit bigger for you. So the number of applicants here has gone up. And then the number of sites available has also gone up. But if you go down here, the applicants that matched went up. That's good. More people matched. But the people that didn't match also went up. You're like, whoa, how can that be? The number of sites went up, so certainly the number of applicants that matched went up. That's not true. The number of sites went up, but the number of sites didn't go up enough. So again, there's an outpacing of the number of sites and the number of people that want it. Now, this is my big prediction for this year, and I don't know if it's going to come true or not. So it is pure speculation. But from what I'm seeing early on with the LOIs and who is coming to me, now I know that this could just be that, well, somebody who's not been in for a while would come to get some extra help because they aren't in pharmacy school now. But what I'm seeing is a lot more of these students are coming in. So to give you the numbers on PGY applicants, there are 2019 graduates, and they form 96%. Let me do the math again. So 402 plus 5183, okay, divided by 402. So it'll go 402 plus 5183 equals, and then 402 over that number, 5585. 5585. Okay. 7% of the applicants last year, and that's 400 of them, were pre-2019 graduates. That's not just 2018. That's pre-2019. That means that of the 2,000 people that didn't match for a PGY1, only 400 of them reapplied the next year. Okay, so only 20% of some. Although these people said, no, I absolutely want to do a residency. I'm not going to continue my career without a residency. 20% of them didn't have the grit and wherewithal to get through the next year, or they got a job, or something like that. But that whole I have to do a residency doesn't show in the data if 400 of 2,000, and that was only 2018. But we're talking 400 of, let's say, the last 3 years. So we're talking about, 400 out of, 6,000 or something like that. That is a really, really tiny number. Now, what I'm seeing is there are a lot more people that graduated last year that are applying this year. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is if they just didn't get a job and they're maybe stayed as an intern or technician, they're going to come back and apply this year to try to get that residency so they can get their dream job. Second, they're looking at their actual salary in a 32-hour-a-week job, and they're saying, residency isn't such a sacrifice anymore. I'm making $70,000. I could make $50,000 in a residency or $45,000 in a residency. That's not a huge difference. And so they're saying, I'm just not satisfied with my career. I'm going to enter the match, but not quit my job until obviously I get a match. And so they have kind of that backup. The third group that I'm seeing are the ones that just can't get the job they want because they've been in practice, but their practice experience doesn't allow them to do BCPS or whatever it is. So in these three cases, I'm seeing more pre-2019 graduates. So this is my big concern. Because of the increase in percentage of accepted students to pharmacy school, over the next 4 years, we have no decrease in the number of graduates. I think it's 3 or 4 years. It's been very flat. So my concern is that this 7,000 is not going to go up by 500 like it did from last time. My concern is this 7,000 or 6,968 number of applicants enrolled in the match is actually going to go up exponentially. And I'm thinking that it's maybe going to go up to 8,000 or 9,000 applicants for PGY1s. Because right now, you're going to job fairs. And I'm seeing that some job fairs don't even have most of the biggest employers in the country, the Walgreens, CVS in some cases. Who's number 3? Rite Aid got absorbed by Walgreens or part of it. So what I'm seeing is that you're going to the job fair and everyone else is going to the job fair and you're like, hey, what gives? Not only are we not getting positions, but we don't even have a chance to get a position, or the position is something I don't want. And so all of a sudden you've got this huge group that's saying, man, we're really going to maybe need to apply for residency that wasn't thinking about it. The other big thing, and I won't point out schools, but what I'm seeing is between a 20 and 30% unemployment at graduation. Now, the better data comes from 6 months out, but 6 months out isn't here yet. So we've got, graduate in May, so June, July, August, September, October, November. And so late November is when, or December is when they would have the data for 6 months out, but most schools don't put it up until January, if they put it up at all, because ACPE doesn't require that you post the employment numbers. They have some things that you do have to post, but employment isn't one of them, which is a little bit weird. So that's my big prediction, is that the number of applicants enrolling in the match may go up exponentially rather than 500 like it did last year. Maybe it'll go up 1,000 and 2,000 because all of these students are saying, you know what, I'm really not seeing an opportunity out there. I'm going to enroll in the match. And we'll kind of know when we get to Vegas and find out, how many are going. But we really won't know until the numbers come out in March. So my recommendation is that you obviously hope for the best. People get plenty of jobs on their way out of pharmacy school and don't try for residency just because they feel that they don't have other opportunities. But I would plan for the worst, which is to have an exponentially more difficult time matching, just because the number of new programs, which may be 200 or 300 again this year, is nowhere near the number of people that's going to keep applying, maybe another 1,000 or another 2,000. And again, the data show this, where there's this separation. The matched applicants went up, but the participating applicants that not matched also went up. So again, if you want my help with LOI, I'm happy to help you. You can use my free resources. Again, I'm doing this all because I can't control how many people that pharmacy schools accept. I can't control, I can't hire everyone. But what I can do is I can give you a much better chance at matching because it's a very different thing when you've seen a couple of 100 people and how they approach, especially the letter of intent, and you have that experience versus it being a one-time thing. A big example is buying your first house. You're going to make a ton of mistakes with it, and anyone who's done it knows it. But I was a real estate agent for a while, and I've helped people buy 300 homes. So when I look at a house, I know exactly what's wrong, what to look for, and things like that. This is probably your first shot at this. And so the best way to become really experienced at it really quickly is to start working with other people who have been there before. All right, good luck. And again, aagara@dmac.edu if you want to talk to me, or I'm Tony PharmD on LinkedIn. Hey, thanks for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about the interview process, go over to Amazon.com where you can check out 100 strong residency interview questions, answers, and rationales in print book, ebook, and audiobook.